need to give it up. I had a body road.
Hop in the coupe, put that thing on cruise, bumping your favorite tunes, making it all about you. Everything that I do it for you. 'Cause I got you. What's going on, you guys? I'm finally here to talk about this versus battle between Monica and Brandy. So it happened on Monday night. It's now Wednesday night. I know I missed a day, whatever. Okay, I'm working. I got this crazy schedule that I've been doing, so it is what it is. I'm here now, and we're going to talk about it. Now, first things first, let's be nice in the comments, at least. I don't know, because obviously, like, there's always been kind of like a feud between Brandy's fans and Monica's fans. I'm not even saying between Brandy and Monica, because honestly, their feud is thanks in part to the fans and the media. So I'm not even going to, like, it's not even, I'm talking about the fans. They've had this big issue between Brandy and Monica, who's better and who's not, but whatever. I'm not going to go through every single song, because not every single song, like, really evoked an emotion from me too much, because, like, I mean, I was jamming the whole time, but it was only really when they started to, like, discuss, like, the stories behind what each song meant to them and meant to their fans and meant to each other. That's when I really took the time to make a note and say, okay, this is the point in time where they talked about this topic and this topic, that, whatever. Let's talk about the songs that they actually decided to start off with, because I think it's important to note that Brandy and Monica, both of them, while they both make R&B music, they have very different ways of approaching it, and also different ways of approaching certain situations with their music. So the fact that Brandy started off with "What About Us" and Monica started off with "Everything to Me" says a lot more than I think people actually realize. Let's go into this. So when Brandy first came out, she had this kind of very, like, cookie cutter kind of clean girl image, whereas Monica was more on the, side. She was more cutthroat. She was more, like, up in your face. She was more open, honest, mature sounding. And when that contrast, Brandy was singing a lot more about, finding love and being, like, that innocence that you have in your teenage year. Well, we used to have in our teenage years. I don't know about now. And then Monica was more of, okay, I may be young, but I think this way. I'm more on the grown side. Like, I'm thinking about, like, love and heartache and heartbreak and all that stuff. And I think it says a lot that Brandy approached it with "What About Us," which is pretty much a song about how this guy is not doing what he said that he was going to do, and "Everything to Me" is more of a heartfelt, like, I found love, I found the perfect guy, I want to be with this person, you're everything to me, and it's funny how they contrast, whereas, like, most people would approach Monica and approach Monica's music with a sense of, I'm gonna get that, niggas ain't shit kind of attitude, and Brandy is the opposite. Even though both of them made both kinds of music, it's just it says a lot to me. It says a lot in kind of the way that their music kind of crosses, and you can get the same things from each artist, but in a different way, if you get where I'm going. So gone. This is the part in time where a lot of people started, like, looking at it sideways and kind of, like, wondering, okay, so what's going on? Because they kind of teased that, people would actually get to know exactly what happened between Monica and Brandy and why in the world they were, like, feuding for so many years, and why they hadn't talked for about 8 years before this versus battle, like, thing happened. And then when we got in the thing of "So Gone," Monica, she went into this thing where she's saying, oh, this was back in the time where I was kicking down doors and smacking chicks. And then Brandy had to go and say her little comment about, you want to tell them that I used to be one of them chicks. And I was like, Brandy, that's not... Like, I get she was trying to be funny and lighthearted with the situation, but it kind of did it kind of rubbed Monica the wrong way. And you could tell that it rubbed her the wrong way because she did call her out on it, and she said, well, no, let's not do that because then people are going to think that I was abusive and stuff. And Brandy's like, no, I'm not saying you're abusive, but you did hit me. You did deck me in the face, which I mean, I can't be mad at because it's the truth. She did hit her. And now it was confirmed. Monica did hit Brandy the night of the VMAs. But they have since moved past it. But, you know, it was interesting to me that they kind of had that exchange because it just seemed like the whole entire time Monica was kind of forcing herself to be okay with the situation when maybe she had a couple of unresolved things that she wanted to really deal with Brandy before they got on this platform. But Brandy is more of the happy-go-lucky type as far as like putting things to the side, putting differences to the side so that you know she can actually like save face and show people that like we are actually here because our music brought us here. And I get where she was coming from too. But with Monica, you kind of get more of the feeling like you're always going to get what you see is what you get with Monica. And that's the reason why people really do respect her. Not that Brandy is fake, but Brandy likes to she likes to make it look good for the camera because she knows that a lot of people are watching and they're expecting things to go south. So she doesn't want to give people the satisfaction of seeing things happen like that. So that's why she was more like, and also I feel like she genuinely wanted to make up with Monica and really be in this space with her because she genuinely likes Monica and her music and what she's done for the industry just as much as Monica does. They just express it in different ways. And I don't want people thinking that, oh, they're still feuding. Oh, they're just being fake with each other. And you can tell because of Monica's face. Monica's just that person. A couple of these things were predicted. Like I had a feeling, well, everybody kind of probably had a feeling that once Brandy brought in I Want to Be Down, Monica would then counter with Just One of Them Days because those are their first singles. So obviously they're going to you know, verse them. And if I'm just going off of me and my bias, Just One of Them Days is the first song that I heard out of the two of them. I did not hear I Want to Be Down until a little bit later on, which is weird considering I Want to Be Down actually debuted first and then Just One of Them Days. But I was also like a baby when it came out, so I wasn't really like paying attention to music like that. But also my mom had the Miss Thing album, so I always listened to Monica more when I was like a little child. I didn't get into Brandy a lot more until the 2000s, which is weird because most of her best work people say are in the 90s. I don't believe that. But that'll be another video when we rank Brandy's albums. We're going to talk a lot about that later on. But I kind of predicted that. That was obvious. To me, the clear winner was Just One of Them Days. I just like that song a lot more. I like the vibe of it. If you want that more like that more chill, laid back, like California kind of vibe, then you can get with I Want to Be Down. Not saying it's not a good song, but Just One of Them Days, I get with Just One of Them Days a lot more. I just like it. The vocals, everything is good in there. Whenever I listened to Shoulda Known Better, I knew that this was a story more so than just a song that she was saying on the album. After the Storm was one of my favorite Monica albums. Hands down, one of my favorite Monica albums. I can listen to it from beginning to end and never skip a track. I love it. Should Have Known Better is one of my favorite songs, and I had a feeling that it could have been about somebody, but at the time that it came out, I was so young, I really didn't pay attention to like who it could be because I didn't really know anything about Monica's personal life. But now listening to it and now like seeing like all the stuff that's going on right now with like the whole C murder situation. I mean, and then when you think about like the fact that she's talking about like you should have known better to think that I would leave your side, that I would ride or die. Don't matter if you're rich or poor, out or in, doing 5 to 10. Tell me it's not about C murder and I will riot. I'm telling you right now, that song is has got to be about C murder. I'm jacking that song is about C murder. I don't know why, like. And then she talks about how when I love, like, you know how she goes, when I love for a long time. It doesn't matter where I'm at, where I'm doing, what I'm doing, who I'm doing it with. I'm always thinking about that one person that really made me fall in love with them. And I'm like, and then she started talking about C murder. And I'm like, you just told on yourself. You know, we know you saving yourself up. We know. Then we get into a point in time where I start boohooing. And I don't understand why. Like, No, I understand why. Because the songs like Missing You, and especially because they dedicated that to like Kobe and Chadwick we just lost, and like all the other people that we've lost this year. And even with just everything going on, and people have just been losing close people, like people who are very close to them. I lost my grandmother, and then like I just started thinking about all of that while they were playing Missing You with Tamia, Gladys Knight, and then also For You I Will, which was on the Space Jam soundtrack. I really honestly I felt like I literally had tears in my eyes listening, because the way those songs hit, and they still hit to this day. For You I Will, I don't, whenever I listen to the Boy Is Mine album, I skip For You I Will. I skip it because I know what that song does to me. I literally skip it. There are certain songs on certain albums that I skip for a specific reason. On Brandy's album, on Brandy's Full Moon album, there's a couple of songs that I skip. There's one song that I skip because it always makes me like start like tearing up a little bit. And it's either, is it not, it's not When You Touch Me, Come a Little Closer. When she gets to that bridge of Come a Little Closer, don't ever leave me. I can't hit them notes right now. When she gets to that part, I was just like, don't leave me, like, don't leave me. I be so in my bag, and it's like I don't even have to be in a relationship to be in my bag about something, about that song. That song just does something, because the build up, because it starts off, I know that it's late, and then it just builds up until that damn bridge, and then once that climax hits, I'm just like, the tears are just there. The tears are just there. But like that's the thing. Like when you have singers like Brandy and Monica, they really do like make music that really just solidifies your feelings, like your emotions. And that's something that I'm going to get on a little bit later when it comes to emotional singing. Right. And then they go into Brokenhearted and Love All Over Me, which are opposites. You see, the thing is about Monica and Brandy, again, it's they cross paths and then they become opposites. And then they cross paths and then they become opposites. It's a pattern that I actually identified with during this entire versus battle. A lot of the times, the one song that the one person would play would be like the opposite of the other, or they would line up somewhere and be the same. It would be like going back and forth doing that. I don't know. Maybe that's just as me. Like with my mind, I'm always doing calculations in my head, so that's just kind of the way that I am. But like, let me know. Um, but anyway, after that, they do an intermission and they debut Monica's new song Trenches. So really quickly, briefly, I'll tell you what I think about Trenches. Not I appreciate the fact that Monica is doing some collaborations with like newer artists like Lil Baby, and the fact that she has like two like teenage boys, like I think that that's cool too, because obviously like Lil Baby is somebody that they probably look up to. So yeah, I think that it was a good opportunity for a good collaboration. The execution, not so much. I like Trenches, but I'm not gonna play it all the time. So like I said earlier about this whole emotion thing, we talk about singing and we talk about emotion, and then we talk about precision. I think that a lot of people like Brandy and Monica for those specific reasons. When people talk about Brandy, they always talk about vocals, they always talk about harmonies, they always talk about technique, they always talk about all those things. There's not too many times where I really hear people, especially in the past, talking about the feeling, the emotion, the grit behind Brandy and her vocals, because she is a technical kind of singer. Most of every single note that Brandy hits, and it hits almost perfectly every single time. Almost every single time it hits perfectly. And the harmonies are always interwoven very, very, very deeply. You're going to get a good like body of vocal work with Brandy. With Monica, on the other hand, people like her because she comes from the gut. She literally has that guttural, mature tone ever since she first came out. And I think that's the thing that people really got with when it came to Monica, is that her emotion really pours through when it comes to her singing with her voice. Not saying that Brandy does not have that level of emotion, but even she said she admires Monica more because of the fact that you can actually like feel the emotion that Monica is feeling when she sings the songs she sings. Whereas with Brandy, it's more on the precision side. She's a perfectionist. She likes to make sure that everything sounds good to the ear rather than how people feel coming off from it. When you when you are in the studio, and I know this from experience, when you're in the studio and you're doing the same thing over and over and over to make sure it becomes perfect, the initial feeling is kind of diminished a little bit. The initial feeling is kind of diminished. And Monica even says that a lot of the time she takes a lot of her first takes. She doesn't really re-record a lot of her stuff. That's probably the reason why they like Monica over Brandy, because you really do get that impact. That impact is there. The emotion is there. With Brandy, you're getting a lot more now because she's come into herself more and she's really putting down in the song how she really feels, and she's letting that show through with her music and with her voice. But back then it was more on along the lines of, I got to get this right so that everybody likes what I'm singing. I got to make sure that this sounds perfect. You can't get too caught up in perfection and technique and precision when it comes to making music and making art. People should actually get a feeling of who the artist is because of the art and kind of the emotional attachment that someone has to their art. Um, I'm not saying that Brandy's gets lost, but if you are focusing in on those things, you do kind of you do dilute it a little bit. And that's where the two of them are very different. That's all. I'm not saying this myself. This is not just my opinion. It's also Brandy's. Brandy literally said, I focus too much. I used to focus a lot on the precision, on the perfection of the voice, of the vocals, that I didn't pay as much attention to the emotion. But you captured that right away, Monica. And I think that when you capture the emotion, the technique will just come. Everything else will just fall into place when you have that emotion. And that's something I had to work on, because I always doubted myself and my singing ability because I wasn't perfect, because I didn't hit every single note the way that it was supposed to be hit. And I always got kind of consumed with that. And my mother was always, don't worry about that. Feel it, and the rest of it will come into place. And now I don't even worry about the technique. If it doesn't sound perfect, oh well, I did what I did because I felt it. In that moment, it felt right. And that's kind of the mentality that a lot of singers need to get back into, because I feel like now we've gotten to the point where a lot of people are so worried, especially in R&B and gospel. People are so worried about how good this run sounds. Is it perfectly up and down the scale? You don't have to worry about any of that. If you have the feeling, the talent is already there. You just have to have the emotion. If you're feeling what you're singing, it'll all fall into place. And people will connect with you regardless of how it sounds. It's just facts. It's just facts. Now, we all know that when it comes to Monica and Brandy, neither one of them is really a dancer like that, but especially Monica. I think Brandy has done a lot more in the choreography department. Not only that, she was also on Dancing with the Stars. So she has a lot more dance experience than Monica does. But I will never forget when she did the first night. And that's how I knew, like, when she started talking about how, like, this is like the one time that I complained about having to do choreography, and I was like, I know exactly what song she's talking about. The first night, you could tell that she really wasn't 100% like down with it. Like, she really didn't care about doing choreography. It wasn't her thing. She was the cool, laid back chick, you know. She didn't do all that like, she didn't do all of that stuff. So I thought that that was like kind of endearing. Like, I was just like, oh yeah, no, we know. I had a feeling that she really didn't like doing choreo. I really had a feeling that she didn't like it at all. Of course, the whole Timbaland thing, you know, Timbaland and Swiss Beats kind of put this together as well. So, like, you know, there was a lot of like shout outs to them. And of course, Dark Child, who did a lot of Brandy stuff, and of course, The Boy Is Mine. But Timbaland, when she said, "Oh, you know, this song was produced by Timbaland and this and any other, like, big ups to Timbo," and I'm like, "This has got to be Who Is She to You?" And I was right. A lot of the stuff was predicted because of the things that they were saying beforehand, before they even said the song's name, before they even started playing the song. Who Is She to You is from Aphrodisiac, and to me, Aphrodisiac is so underappreciated. I think that a lot of people, and even like big like stands of Brandy, be putting Aphrodisiac down. I'm just like, really? Because I re-listened to that album, and the album smacks. Like it's actually very, very, very good, and people need to stop. They need to get their heads out of their asses and stop it. But Aphrodisiac definitely is one of the best albums that Brandy's ever put out. It's type focused, even though the message, I think it's because the message was kind of lost because of all the things that was going on during that time. But I will discuss that further during my album ranking video that I'm preparing. So just look out for that. Just look out for anything that about Brandy's albums. Just look out for that. I'm not gonna really be discussing her albums in this because it's not really about Brandy. It's about both of them. Now, um, so with the whole Timbaland going on that trend after Who Is She to You came Knock Knock. Okay, Knock Knock was one of my favorite songs on After the Storm, and After the Storm was just a good album altogether. And I knew that, you know, hearing Missy on there, I knew that Timbaland had like a big part in the album as well. Let's talk about a couple of the things that were happening, like when they were discussing the different stories of the songs. First of all, let's talk about Brandy because people are all talking about Brandy flexing on Monica because technically this is a versus battle. Like it's nice and everything to go back and forth and talk about the stories and stuff, but like let's talk about our accolades as well because Brandy was like she was doing a lot. She was doing a lot when she was also putting out music. Homegirl was also on a hit TV show and she was on movies and everything else. Like Homegirl was doing the damn thing. Brandy actually stacked up in the entertainment industry. She wasn't just a singer. She was also an actress. And I think that that was the one thing that like really set her above Monica in that aspect because people knew of her more due to her being on TV every single goddamn day. Like you, and then she was on all these commercials. She was cover girl. She had the Brandy Barbie. Like she had all this other stuff going on while putting out music, and that's really honestly what really skyrocketed her music career too. But it's also what hurt it in the end. But we'll get on that when we talk about Brandy's albums again. But I like how let's give examples. So the first time she said she talked about how she met Tupac and how he knew who she was and oh I want to be down Brandy and that was her leading into I want to be down. When she mentions Biggie and he had mentioned her in his songs that Brandy sitting up in my room, you know, that's led her into sitting in my room. I like that she had those transitions. Then she had the Moesha theme song at the end of Best Friend because pretty much her first album led into her being starring on Moesha, pretty much. And then Ray J was on there too. So like it just made sense. She dedicated the song to Ray J. Not only that, but she talked about her, you know, connection to Whitney Houston and everything, and how she recorded, you know, sitting up in my room for Babyface, for the Waiting to Exhale. All of her, you know, all of her like idols were in that movie soundtrack. And then Monica also said, "Oh, they didn't call me for that one." I felt like she was upset. But then Brandy also said, "You know, you were still very, very new. Like Brandy had already been around for like maybe about a year and a half, 2 years by the time that came out. Monica had just stepped onto the scene. Her first album had just dropped not too long before Waiting to Exhale. So it makes sense on the timeline scale of things. But I guess Monica would feel a little bit, you know, irritated with that. That was just a fun little thing. Not only that, she came out with It's Possible. Stop. When she brought out When You Touch Me. Another thing is Brandy. Okay, I did have a little bit of an issue with this because I was listening to Monica's albums as early as like age like 3, 4, and I was singing along and everything when I was like 5, 6, 7. And I also like when that Sideline Ho sound came out, I was no older than like 13. I was a teenager. All I know is that I knew what a hoe was. I knew who a hoe was. I knew who would be considered a hoe. I knew what a sideline hoe was when I was a teenager. And the fact that Brandy made this whole like thing about Sarah being there and oh no, Sarah, cover your ears. Is this Sarah 18? You probably don't even realize Sarah has probably had sex. I'm not saying she did, but she's probably had sex or probably experienced something along the lines of something grown. Like she's grown. Like stop it, stop. I had to clock Brandy for that one because I was just like, really, like let's stop doing that. Like we're no longer in like the 80s and 90s, like girls would literally have to be innocent until they were like 25. Like we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. Please stop. People were obviously waiting for "The Boy Is Mine" to come in. Oh, we got "Trust" too with Keisha Cole. I love that song. I love that song. You get Brandy and Monica in the same room. You want "The Boy Is Mine." Um, a lot of people were also wanting "It All Belongs to Me." I'm actually glad they didn't do it because I'm honestly like I'm not really crazy about that song. Like I listen to it from time to time because the vocals are amazing, but the actual lyrics and like the song itself does not hold up. Like it's not as timeless as "The Boy Is Mine." "The Boy Is Mine" is very timeless. Um, "It All Belongs to Me" is very 2000, like early 2010s. Like you can't really sing it all, but like I don't know, like it could be timeless too because those things still happen. But I'm not like I don't know. I just the sound, the delivery, I really wasn't feeling that as much. So the fact that they didn't actually do it or talk about it, there's also another reason. I think that they didn't really do it because there was a lot of negative connotation that went with "It All Belongs to Me" because that was supposed to be like their comeback. They were supposed to do this tour and everything, and then it didn't end up happening. And Brandy was also supposed to have that on her album, kind of like they did with "The Boy Is Mine," but she didn't actually put it on to 11. So that was kind of like a whole thing to me. I feel like they just didn't want to cross that. Also, it would have been Monica's decision since it's technically her song, just like "The Boy Is Mine" was Brandy's originally, and then she added Monica to it, and it was this whole debate, whatever, about who would actually have it, and then they actually took it off of Monica's album, the digital album, and it was just a whole bunch of mess. But like, I feel like there's a lot of negativity surrounding that area, so that's probably one of the reasons why they didn't even talk about "It All Belongs to Me." Plus, there was a lot of a negative reception for that song. Not a lot of people liked it, so there's that. I didn't really have a problem with it, but it could have been better. That's all I gotta say about that. And as it stands, "The Boy Is Mine." I can't. I really did want more singing. Like these two are like vocal powerhouses in their own rights. I really wanted to hear more singing, but I guess Monica was kind of on the basis of, you know what, y'all gotta listen to the album to hear more singing, or you guys gotta watch for my like tour that might be coming next year. They're also talking about this tour, like Brandy was like, oh, you're not gonna do the tour, you're not gonna do the tour, this tour, or we're gonna make sure the tour happens. And even Ray J later on, he's like, I'm gonna make sure this tour happens. I'm like, but I mean, if Monica doesn't want to do the tour, then she doesn't want to do the tour. You can't make her do the tour. I just don't know. There's like this whole situation with a tour that's supposed to happen like back in 2012. Like that tour was supposed to happen a long time ago, and it didn't. And I even have record because I watched the Breakfast Club interview, and Monica is the one that actually said something about a tour happening between the two of them, and she then like it didn't happen. And I think that's one of the main reasons why Brandy got really upset and really stopped talking to her. I think that was one of the main reasons. There was probably other reasons too, but that was probably one of the main reasons. Like if you're gonna put your mouth out there and say that we're gonna go tour together and do all this and do all that, and then all of a sudden it's deaded, it kind of does irritate it does kind of bring a little bit of irritation. But there's obviously reasons why it happened like that, but I can't really get into that. Anyway, when it comes down to it, both women, I can't really even choose a winner because I love both of them. I love both of them equally. I know a lot more of Brandy's songs, and it's just because I follow her more closely. But every song that Monica played that night, I knew them. So yeah, I can't even complain. Like it was a good versatile. Now some people are out here calling it boring. People wanted more mess. I really appreciate the fact that there wasn't more mess because we had enough of that. We had enough of that. We don't want to see more of that. It's over. Like they're both grown as hell. They're both in their 40s. I think it's time. I think this was good. This was good. People are like, oh, they weren't close to each other. They had to observe social distancing rules because they were at Tyler Perry Studios. Like they literally had to like they came together at the end and hugged and everything else, but like during that thing they kind of had to stay apart, as much as possible. I get it. We're doing this stuff during a pandemic. It's fine, but I would have liked to see a little bit more chemistry. It did seem a little bit off, but I'm willing to let that go because we got so much good out of it. The music and the storytelling, it was good. It was good. See, and look, I even took a note from Brandy. Like I was on my Moesha. I had my notes. I had my little notes on the side, like she did. That had me out. Like every single time, I gotta refer to my notes. I gotta get my notes. I gotta get my notes. I'm like, you stupid as hell. Brandy is a clown. She's a clown through and through. But anyway, let me know what you guys thought about the verses. Okay, I done talked for like 40 minutes. It's gross. Real quick before I actually like completely close it, I noticed there was nothing from Human. I feel attacked because I'm one of the few people who actually likes Human as an album. I know why, because I think Brandy herself doesn't like how Human turned out. Like she even likes like Aphrodisiac and stuff more than Human. I get it, but Human was actually a pretty good album. Not one of her best, definitely not one of her best, but it was definitely like it was up there. Like it wasn't up there. Let me not do that. Let me not do that. But to be honest, Human was not a bad album for her to not even pick like one song, like not even Departed. Like Departed was actually a good song. Long Distance was a good song. Piano Man was a good song, but that song was like literally about like her musical relationship with Dark Child. So I understand because they kind of had like an issue, like a feud during the time because she felt like Rodney did not give his 100% for Human. But I get it. But I feel like Human, you definitely should have had something from Human, like one song from Human. I mean, you even put it down on it. Not everybody even liked Put It Down. A lot of people actually rank 211 on the bottom of the list. They rank it under Human, but we're gonna get on that again. We're gonna get on that later. But I feel like the slander that 211 gets is not necessary whatsoever. It's not. But let me know what you thought of the verses. If you felt that there was a clear winner, let me know who you thought the winner was in the comments. Obviously, make sure that you're subscribing to this channel for some more videos. We got some stuff coming up for you. Like I said, I'm doing a Brandy ranking video of our albums. Stay tuned for that. Some more reactions are coming. And also a Legend of Korra reaction might be coming. I don't know. I've been watching it again. So we might talk a little bit about it. We might have a little rant over that. And that's pretty much it. Follow me on my social media. Definitely follow me on my social media because I'm going to start posting more stuff there. Also, my music is on SoundCloud and iTunes and Spotify. Definitely check that out. Christian Lamar. All right. And that's pretty much it. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great night. All right. Stay safe, you guys. I'm going to be out here doing all kinds of craziness for the next few days. So pray for me. All right. Anyway, take care, guys. Bye.